Hi all, this is Allmighty and welcome to this video. In this video we are going to talk about an endgame where we have a queen against a pawn. And of course you might think, what can a pawn do against a queen? And actually there are some situations where you have to show some technique. So for example here this is the simplest example where white can easily win this endgame. But later on I will explain you about more complex situations where actually black can go on and draw this endgame. So okay, the idea for this endgame is simple. Queen to d1, put your queen in front of the pawn. And now, whatever black plays, you will bring your king up, and in the end, you will make black king to go away from the pawn, and you will then capture the pawn and try and checkmate the black king. Okay, so, for example, he pushes the pawn, we bring the king up, and doesn't make sense to go away now. Let's push again, and now queen to b1. And why is that? Because we don't want to go around and create so that the black can create opposition on us and we cannot come any closer. We want to force him to push the pawn because now he doesn't have any moves. He plays d1, promotes to a queen, we pick it up, and after that we just checkmate him. Let's move on to the next positions where white can actually win the game, but he has to show some technique against black. So let me tell you right off the bat, for example here, where on the black side he has a pawn, if he has a pawn on e2, d2, b2 and g2, it is a lost game for black, so white can win this game. And for example, if otherwise the pawn would be on a2, c2, f2 and h2, then it would be a drawn game. Okay, depending on the circumstances, but if it was this position where the white king and white queen are far away, then yeah, it would be a drawn game. But okay, let me show you first this. So the idea behind this situation is that you want to put the black king in front of the pawn, so that the white king can come closer, because then he cannot push to promote to the queen. So we start by queen to b4, because now again black doesn't want to go behind the pawn, because as in the previous situation the queen just comes in front and then it's easy for the white king to come closer. So okay, the black king wants to come always to the first or to the second rank. And now we do the following. We give checks until he goes in front of the pawn. So here he can go in front of the pawn, but he can also play king to c1 since the pawn isn't attacked. But we give a check here, he comes here, and now this check, and he goes in front of the pawn, because if he goes to c1, then we would capture the pawn. And that is something that black doesn't want to do. So okay, now we come closer with the king, so king to g4. And now black has to go on the other side. If we play king to f1, then we are in a pin and we can just move the king closer since the pawn cannot go to promotion. We play king to f2 instead. And now check here, since it is the best move, and king to f1, because this is the only move for black king. And in this situation we can even play king to f3. And why is that? Because, okay, so there are two options actually. If black promotes to a knight, then okay, this is an endgame that I already shown you in the previous videos. It is easily winnable. With white, you just have to maneuver your queen and in the end checkmate the black king. We just move the king like this, and okay. But I don't want to go over it again. You can look one of the previous videos. But okay, so this is the one idea. But again, as I've said, it's also a win for white. But if he promotes to a queen, then easily queen to g2 is a checkmate. So okay, as I said, one of the positions is like this. You want to push a black king in front of the pawn and bring your king closer. So let's go on to the next position. Okay, here we have a pawn which is on the border, so a rook pawn. As I said previously, it is usually a drawn game, but now since the king is in front of the queen, we can use that to our advantage. So if we play king to g6 here, it isn't stalemate. So if we would move the king somewhere else, then it would be stalemate, since the black king, because of the queen, cannot move anywhere else. And now he can play king to g1 or king to g2. No matter what, we again bring the king closer, since it is a check. Okay, and now there are a couple of options. If, for example, he wants to play king to f2, or yeah, if he plays, for example, let's go over king to h1. If he goes king to h1, then the same idea. We go here, and then he needs to go somewhere here, and then we move the king again with a check. So let's say he doesn't want to do that, because then we will come close and we can easily check and checkmate with the queen. But if he goes king to f2, then we also have queen to d5. So the idea is go in front of the pawn. He wants to stop this, and he goes king to g1. And now we can even check him like this. He will go king to g2. We go here, and of course he doesn't want to go here, because we can then just bring the king closer, and he has g1 square. So he plays immediately king to g1, and now, as in the previous situation, we can play king to g4, because now when he pulls out the queen, we just go king to g3, and now no matter what he plays, it will be checkmate, or we will capture the queen in the next move. So okay, as I've said, queen cannot give any checks, so only checks where only squares where queen can give a check are these ones, and as you can see, all of them can be easily captured. So no matter what he plays, in the end, let's say for example, if he moves, he doesn't want to be captured, we just give checkmate like this. But this is just one of the examples, yeah. So okay, this is something that I wanted to show you for positions where actually white can win the game, and next we will cover the position where it's actually a drawn game. I just wanted to talk to you about something from the last section. Just wanted to say that the same thing would happen if the positions would be exchanged. So if white would have a pawn on the 7th rank, the same rules would apply. So a7, h7, f7, c7 and a7 would have a drawn endgame if the king and queen would be far away, and these pawns would be losing for white. But okay, let's move on to this position. So as you can see, it's pretty much similar to the one previously, but the king is on the other side, so he is not covering the queen. And unfortunately now we cannot help it, but we can just give checks. Doesn't matter where. So we have e3, e1, g4. Wherever we go, in the end, black will first play here. And for example, if we give a check here, then he goes to h1. Or even he can play king to f1 because the pawn is not attacked. But okay, let's just cover that. If here white gives a check on g4, we go king f1. Now white gives a check like this and gives a check like this, like in one of the previous examples, where now king has to move in front of the pawn. But again, now we cannot bring the king closer since it is a stalemate. So this is one of the drawn positions, and unfortunately for white, he cannot move out of this. So okay, let me go on to the next position. So here, as I said, this is one of the positions where I said that we had h2, f2, c2 and a2, those are drawn. And let me show you why c2 and f2 would be drawn. It is the same principle. So for example here, as said previously, what do we want to do? We want to bring the black king in front of the pawn, and then we can bring our king closer. Okay, now the black king is on the wrong side, but since the white king is so far away, we can execute this maneuver. So okay, let's do the same thing for white as in previous situations. You can move because the pawn cannot be captured. So a check here, and you need to go in front of the pawn. And now we can bring the king closer, but now you go on the other side. And okay, so now we have a check here. We go like this, check here, here, you go like this. So the point is to give checks in a way that the black king goes away from the pawn, then you attack the pawn, or you do the same thing. You attack the king and the pawn, and the black king needs to defend. Now black doesn't want to go in front of the pawn because the king will come closer. The other options are h2 and h1. So for example, let's try h2. It will be the same deal. No matter where he goes. Now white plays queen to f3, threatening to take the pawn. We have to defend it, and now the moment which you've been waiting for. Why is this drawn endgame? Because now, of course, white has given a check and he is attacking the pawn. So usually what you would want to do, if you were on the other side, you would go in front of the pawn so you can defend it. But now you also have one other move, which is king to h1. And now, unfortunately for white, he cannot capture the pawn because it is a stalemate. So okay, that is the whole idea. Now what he can do actually is give some more checks, but in the end the situation will be the same. No matter what he does, king can play g1 h1, and if he captures the pawn, then it is a stalemate. In other cases, if he doesn't do it, then the pawn will eventually come to f1 and be promoted to a queen. So okay, this is pretty much it for this video. You learned some situations where actually black in this situation can draw this endgame, but as I said previously, most of these situations where you have a pawn against the queen, this is a lost position. As long as the side which has the queen can put the queen in front of the pawn and then bring the king closer. Okay, I would like to thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.